I asked them, I was like, do you still love me? And they said, well, I haven't really thought about it. Okay. Like 2 weeks later, okay. Um, I don't really think it's something that you think about. And that's my thought. Like, I don't have to think if I love somebody. Like, it's a feeling. And obviously, I'm at a very different point in my life than they are. And that's fine. It just helps, like, to show and understand that, like, if I wanted to date myself, like, I mean, I would just be alone the rest of my life. Like, right? Like, um, which is, I guess, a weird thing to say. um, but like, it really is interesting that, like, I think, and I have done this. I can't speak for the two of you. Like, I have done a lot of projecting, in relationships, and I've done a lot of, like, this is what I want you to be, or this is what I expect or want to see, and like that, looking at that, like, that to me is like, okay, like, why am I trying to change who this person is, right? Like, can I not accept them for who they are? And if I can't, like, why am I in that relationship, right? Like, why am I sitting there saying, okay, like, I would change this and this and this?
You'll never be satisfied,
Yeah.
and they'll never feel like they can reach your expectations. It's a lose lose.
Yeah, exactly. And it's I was telling this to somebody yesterday that, like, obviously now, right? Like, I am the last person in my family to get married. And marriage for me when I was younger was something that I was like, okay, I need to get married by 25. I need both of my grandparents to be there. That's not happening, has not happened. But I was looking at people that were in my life, and I was comparing myself, like, okay, like, why did they work? Or, like, why did this person go with this person? And, comparison is like the thief of joy. Like, it really is. And I think that I have found myself, especially in relationships, and I'm curious to see if you all have done this, like, compared a relationship that you were in to a past relationship and been like, why isn't this relationship like that one? Like, have you all done that?
Yes, but and I've grown to this. That has led me to this. Like, if you can have very hard. It could be very hard for you to trust people, but this new person might not have given you that reason
Mm.
to. So it's really important not to compare where you left off with someone with where you start with somebody. Because you're complete,
Mm.
like, tell them where you were at so that they're
Yeah.
aware of, so that if they see that you're feeling timid on a situation, they can bring it up
Mm.
by communicate.
Yeah.
But I've learned it's very important to start not fresh, but to give them an update of where you have been and where you
Mm.
are, and that you're open to the beginning with them, but that could come up. I don't think that's bad to tell
Mm.
them what goes on in your brain and what makes you who you are. Um, but in the past, I have to. So it's a journey,
Mm-hmm.
journey to get here, but
Yeah.
it's easy to still do that. But that's why it's important, like giving each other that those tidbits so that you can reel each other in when you can
Mm.
see them kind of falling.
I don't know that I've compared people that I have dated. I've like for sure I have had like lingering, if I like feelings, like if,
Yeah.
I've been cheated on and this guy was a liar, then
Mm.
yeah, that if that keeps happening, you're gonna have trust issues. That
Yeah.
people
Mm-hmm.
have triggers, like that's normal, but I don't think that I've ever really directly compared someone to someone
Mm-hmm.
else.
Mm.
I also haven't been that great at recognizing patterns in people.
Mm. Mm.
But they're like Ali was saying earlier, like I haven't always been like the good one, which I don't think is a good
You.
description. But like I haven't always been the one that has been heartbroken. Like
Mm.
I've been the one that
Yeah.
was just mean. Um and you know, so
She speaks facts.
I don't know what that, but um,
Just kidding.
I think going into new relationships, trying to give them the benefit of the doubt, until, you know, they prove that you shouldn't. Um, but yeah, I don't know. Like, when you say like, I'm curious. When you say compare
Yeah.
people, do you mean like how do you mean? Like
Yeah.
just how they make you feel, how they look, like their mannerisms, like.
So I think one of the things that I have struggled with is I think timeline, feelings, um, just like sharing of things. I think you both know this. Like I was in a relationship in in college, and I had planned on proposing to this individual. Um, and so I compared a lot of relationships after that to that. Um, Being at a point of like, okay, like, do I feel similarly with this person that I did to a person that I thought I was going to propose to? Right. And I think, Ellie, to your point, like, that's not fair to the person that we're going into a relationship with, right? Like, it's not a fair assessment of where that relationship with that individual is. And so that's where I talk about that comparison of like, okay, like, start going into a new relationship. Am I feeling the same way that I felt with this last person? Am I seeing the same things? Like, if I can say yes, like, why would I be with that person when I'm feeling the way that I'm feeling
Yeah.
like the last person, right? Like,
You say you shouldn't feel the same stuff, or else why do you want to repeat your
right.
relationship that's
It,
literally
it,
done?
it's and that goes back to the healing process, and it goes back to understanding like here we are, like we obviously haven't worked on ourselves to get over this last relationship. And there's still some lingering things there. So yeah, Cassie, to answer your question, like that's kind of where my thought process is with that comparison question.
Okay, yeah. That makes sense.
So thinking about where y'all have been, and the three of us, we're getting up there in age. Cassie, you're gonna yell at me again for calling you old. She's a spry, almost 25-year-old.
I'm 24. Like,
I said almost 25. But like Allie and I we're getting up there, like 30s, closer than 20.
Yeah.
So like how have y'all's perceptions of dating, how have those perceptions changed through time, through experiences? Like how do you view dating now? And not necessarily like getting into a relationship, but like actually dating.
If when I was 20, if you were still kind of searching what your passions are, or so this isn't like we'll get there, but like if you were like, I could like this, I could like that, this is something I might want to put my money toward. I'm thinking about this career, that makes sense then. If you're closer to 30, if you are still in that exact mindset, I'm not going to be as attracted. No, Jeff, you still have a lot of passions. I mean, like life hit you, and I'm going through a career change right now too. But to have a plan, to like be able to bounce into a plan first. Let me just spend 2 years. That sucked. I need you to have initiative. I need you to have interests, and if those change, that's fine. But initiative is really the biggest thing, because if I want to have a family, which this world has made me change that opinion at this time, I still do. And family doesn't necessarily mean children. It can,
Right.
But in this case, if I want to have children, I want someone who will be there for them when I'm not with me. And then if divorce happens or separation happens, if we weren't married, I want them to still be just as much there as if not. Or as if we were together as a unit. So if I can't see you have initiative in your own life, I won't find that as attractive that you can do it with our larger family unit. So yeah, it looks at like if we're in a situation where everything you're searching for yourself, it's how you do that search. Or if you think life just hit me so hard I can't do much about it, we can always do something. It's hard, but it's how you navigate it, not letting the world navigate you, how you navigate the world. Because we're getting, the older we get, I mean, even when I go on my tiptoes to grab something, when my like Achilles heel tendon makes that little
back.
Yeah. And I'm just 28, so there's less time, and like I'll be honest, I have some death anxiety, so
Same.
I want to make and that's why I'm in a career switch right now. I do not want to spend the majority of my younger life, where it is mostly work, in a position that you don't get a lot of say. Like during COVID, my approved time was tentative until the literal day because I might be needed. I approve.
That's a whole other conversation.
Yeah, so I was 20. How old was I at the time? 26, and I have pretty much a mother that's my employer. Like that's ridiculous. So, and then all the stuff in between. So I chose. I need to enjoy. The majority of my life is work right now. I need to enjoy it differently and better, for my standards at least, so that I'm not using this life in ways that I'm not enjoying. To say that word a million times, it's important. And if I'm not enjoying it and I'm not feeling my best self, how can I be that for others when I want to add them to my life? So that's the difference.
I think I know what I want, and I'm not ashamed of it anymore. So whether it's like sexuality, like I mean, when I was younger, I was in the closet. I'm not anymore. I also don't. Thank you. I also don't know that like I would only look for like monogamous relationships because I've been in more like open relationships, as I mentioned earlier, and I found like, that's an option for me. And I don't know. I don't want to say maybe my dating has shifted to being more casual, but I'm not. I think the biggest change is I am okay being alone. I'm okay being with myself, because I don't hate myself, which is good, which is important. And I feel like a lot of people go through that. I feel like a lot of people don't like themselves, especially like when you're younger. And it's kind of like off topic, but like growing up in like social media, like you compare yourself to everyone. Like it's easy to not like yourself, and then it's easy to allow yourself to get disrespected in relationships. And it's easy to lash out then if you're being disrespected. So I know what I want. I'm better at communicating it. I'm way more like receptive and understanding of people. That you don't always have to have yourself together all the time. Because I mean, I don't. And if the person that I'm with doesn't, that's okay. But there's not as much pressure on dating right now, I think, when you're okay, for me anyway, when you're okay with yourself. I am 12 hours away from everyone that I have ever known prior to this year. I picked up and I moved by myself. So it's definitely made me okay with being alone, and that has helped me in dating. So.
I think that like one of the things you said, Cassie, about like being okay with yourself, I think that a lot of people probably, like you said, struggle with that. And I think that in an age of dating apps where the first, like the initial attraction of dating apps, right, is the physical attraction, right? You see photos of the person, and that's sure people will say that they read the bios, which is probably bullshit. But
read bios.
A majority of people probably don't read bios. And we're gonna talk. I'm gonna actually have a couple people on in the next podcast to talk more about dating apps. So I'm not gonna get too ahead of myself, but it's interesting that you bring that up, because I think that in a day and age where social media is so prevalent, whether it's TikTok, you get in an algorithm and it says, oh, here's a tarot card reading. Your ex is gonna text you at 11 o'clock, and then you scroll for a little bit, and it's like the angels are saying, should you wait or should you move on, right? And then it's like, okay, well this girl's like, oh, this is the only guy that I will ever talk to. If you're not 6'4", yeah, just keep scrolling, right? Like, so like we are surrounded by these things that like I think take a toll on our mental health more than we realize. I think a lot of it is subconscious of like, shit, like if I don't meet this standard, maybe I'm never going to meet that standard for somebody, right? And I think understanding that there's a lot of work that goes into, again, loving yourself, being okay with who you are, and enjoying that for what it is. Being somebody that has struggled with that, it is very difficult. Especially like somebody that struggled with body dysmorphia and always wanting to, be something else. That it's difficult, and I think that that's a really good point that you bring up, is like being okay with like being by yourself and understanding that like at the end of the day, again, you have to love yourself before you can love somebody else, right?
Yeah.
And then
sorry, go ahead.
well, and then also if you are with someone, you found yourself, you love yourself, and if it ends, you don't have to mourn the loss of you too.
Yeah.
You're still okay with yourself. That's ultimately the goal too.
Yeah.
And it takes a lot to be okay right now. I mean, it's not everything.
Mm-hmm.
Everything. If you look around and like just point at things, there are reasons to not like be
Mm.
okay. Mental health is also a huge thing, like
Yeah.
in relationships. That has shifted for me. No.
Yeah.
But-
So like with dating for you all, Cassie, you had talked about casual dating. I'm not going to have you define what casual dating is. I'll let people use their imagination, but like how do you two meet people? Like how do you get to a point where you're like, oh yeah, like I could go on a date with this person? Like especially now, like what does that look like?
So I haven't had, so you can use dating apps. I don't really use them for like long term. I use them for casual dating.
Noted.
So I mean that's the way. Also, I mean that doesn't just mean like one night stands. I mean this could be like just like getting
Yeah.
to know each other.
Going out, having some
yeah.
coffee, some drinks, whatever.
I only have one rule, and that is I will not date someone from work. Because that is a boundary that I have set, which is very smart, in my opinion, for me. But I mean, I don't know, if you go out and you frequent a coffee shop all the time or a bar, if that's your thing. And that's how it's happened for me. Also, there's been like, a friend of a friend, like that whole situation.
You have to have friends for that, though.
Yeah.
And your friends have to have friends.
Right.
But
Well,
aren't
I'm
you?
kidding. Possible,
Yeah.
ways.
So what I'm hearing is you don't date your patients. That's what I'm hearing.
No, absolutely not. Absolutely not. I don't date my coworkers, which is what I was saying.
Oh. So
but
patients are on the
absolutely not.
list for
No,
potential. Okay.
no.
I'm just clarifying here. I'm just clarifying.
No, I'm not dating. I'm not out here dating patients. I don't condone that.
Allie, what about you? What is that? How do you meet people?
No, I don't. Well, right now I'm not kidding. I am going through so many life changes.
Yeah.
I do have one dating app and I haven't opened it in like 2 weeks.
Mm.
And I have people to respond to that I wanted to keep
Oh.
talking to, but that kind of tells me I'm not ready to put that effort in.
Yeah.
I mean, I think if it happens, I would make that effort.
Yeah.
But I want to make sure I'm doing well with my new career that I didn't go to master's. I didn't get a master's for. It's relevant, but it's just, it's so different.
Yeah.
And I'm in a new place. I'm a homeowner now. There's so many things I need to make sure I feel secure in. And I don't want to not give that full attention to somebody. So the fact that I don't remember to open an app, I think tells me,
Yeah.
if I found someone, I would definitely be excited to start that relationship. But, and I'm okay with who I am single too, like Cassie was saying. So I think if I wasn't, I would put the extra effort in if that was my priority. And it's interesting because I do want to start a relationship. I just want to make sure I am ready for them.
Yeah. I think that effort and energy is huge. And back to my question that I had asked y'all about, you know, how you all view dating, and talking about like meeting people now. I haven't told either of you this, but I went on a date earlier today. It was a spontaneous date, who I met off of a dating app, and very, very different experience for me, because I go from dating somebody who we have some years difference, to dating somebody who to going on a date. I don't want to say dating. To going on a date with somebody who has a child and who has been married once before. And I'm sitting in the date. We went and got coffee, and this is actually what I wore, outfit of the day. And just the conversation was very, very different. You know, it's interesting to think about. And Allie, to your point, like thinking about where your needs were at and like where the other person was at too, right? In their life. And this, just having a conversation about just like what it's like to be a grown ass adult and like go through something like that, like already having a child and, you know, had owned multiple homes and the conversations that I just naturally think comes with that and getting to know somebody, like it is so different. And I was sitting there and I was like, holy shit, like I'm so used to one way, and I'm so used to talking about like things that don't even seem that relevant to then talking about like shit, like we're in a world that has a fucked up political system and the education system is trash and like all of these things, and it's just a very, very different conversation, and it's very like telling of who that person is. And so I think like where I'm at when it comes to dating is like I want somebody who's gonna like think about those things, like somebody who has that experience and somebody who like gets it. Right, like it becomes very difficult because I think, and you know, with dating apps, and I don't know y'all's experiences, and again, I'm not going to go on a huge tangent about this, but like most of the conversations I've had have been like, we go back and forth for a couple days, it kind of just then dissolves out, like it's very like surface level, right? But like this is somebody who like I'm literally having full ass like paragraph conversations with, and I'm like, this is just so weak, like it's so different, and I'm like processing of like, this is like the energy that I wanted. This is the energy that I'm looking for, right? And it's so interesting. It's just so different to like have that perspective of like somebody who just gets it. So yeah, it's interesting. And then when it comes to meeting people, like, yeah, like I have dating apps. I don't like go on them like every day. Like I have my places that I go to, like throughout the week that are my typical places, and like I know the people that go there. But I think even then it just becomes like now you're just making friends, right? Like you're just going to the same places with somebody, and then it becomes weird because you're like, okay, well, if I approach this person and they're like, no, like I'm not interested, and then now you have to see that person every time you go there, and but like also being okay with that. Like I think I hate rejection. It's rejection sucks. I don't think anybody enjoys it, but like it just becomes embarrassing. Like you rejected me. Why would I want to continue going to the same place that you're at? I don't know. That's just I feel like that's a whole other tangent. But yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, that's just, I think that just goes to show like how our perception of dating does change, right? And whether we realize that or not, I think that it's interesting to just think about, and I've been saying interesting all the whole time. I can't, I'm not a thesaurus. I can't think of any other words. Intriguing, maybe. Um, but I'm curious, like for both of you, like how do you think you show up differently as we kind of wind down our time, like how do you feel like you show up differently when it comes to dating or comes to a relationship than maybe you did like a relationship or two ago?
This isn't my world. Like the expression like this is just my world and you're all living in it.
Yeah.
I hate it. It's not. And I
Mm.
think when you're growing up, you tend to think you think you see through things through the lens of being very like self-centered.
Yeah.
Um, and that's normal and you grow out of that. Um, or you should. If you don't, then you have some growth to do.
Mm.
'Cause it's there are more important things than just like yourself. Like yeah, like make sure you love yourself, make sure you're good, but like don't be a horrible person
Mm.
to get ahead in the world. Um, and I think as I've gotten older, like I realized that, people are all like we're all doing this together. Like we're all existing together. So, when I'm having a bad day, it's not like my partner or anyone would know unless I told them.
Mm.
No one would know if my partner was going through something
Right.
unless they spoke up about it. So pretty much I've just been more understanding, I think.
Mm.
Like you don't know what this person's going through. Just because, we didn't work out doesn't mean they're a bad person. Just because they treated me poorly doesn't
Right.
mean they were a bad person, and will always be a bad person. Giving people the benefit of the doubt is important,
Mm.
and not like seeing beyond just the initial like sting of something
Mm.
Mm-hmm.
is important.
Yeah.
And I don't know. That's what I've learned. It's not just like me.
Mm.
There's other things happening.
Mm.
I agree. um,
Ditto.
on top of that, and I think I've said this to you during this healing process, Jeff, but like some people want us to move on quickly. Some people get shocked when we move on too quickly.
Mhm.
I think it's really, really important to feel the feelings. Don't gaslight yourself in those feelings. Don't think that you're moving too slow or too fast. But to feel the feelings, reflect on them, and then set them free. Like they still might be a part of you,
Mm-hmm.
but set that feeling with that person in that
Yeah.
moment free and move forward with it. I do that a lot better now.
Mm.
Instead of lingering on something and never moving on, sticking to it. I mean, because you said, Cassie, earlier, our friends are like, no one's going to get mad if you need to vent. But if you're doing it on the same thing for years, I don't think
Yeah.
months and months and months, they're going to think you didn't listen to them or
Yeah.
you're not taking any of their time and words into consideration. And it's not about that. But you both know what I'm talking about. And
Yeah.
if you're listening, too. But it's okay. And as friends, I think that we should mention it. Like, you're still stuck on this. Why? But
Yeah.
I really like feeling them and then letting that go.
Mm.
I find this attractive in people, and I try to be like this more, and I think that I am. But I used to think, especially with the one that said I should be more pet negative. I used to think that they need to know that I'm literally always there for them, and I will stop what I'm doing that's important to me for them or something. Not to that extreme, but now I value where someone likes that I do what I like to do and knows that I'll be there for them, but doesn't expect me to just stop, drop, and roll. There are situations where you should and can and will.
Yeah.
But if they just want to go, let's just say a hockey game, and I'm at a 21 Pilots concert, and they're actually mad that I chose to go to my concert over the hockey game that I don't know about.
Fuck them.
Fuck 'em. But, and like, even I really like being able to be with my partner's family, even if they're not there, because I'm trying to be a part of their, like, I value that, and that, like, if like, my sister just got married, and I'm at their house right now, and her partner is, his name's Alan, my name's Allie, we're Al pals. Sometimes him and I just hang out, and he's my brother now, and that's really great, and I know that my sister values that I welcome him into our life. So I think I'm getting a little sidetracked, but those are things that I like to be. Like, if I wasn't someone that my partner's mother could just be with alone, I don't think that I should be in that partnership.
Yeah, I think those are both like I'm just sitting here processing because I think that I've known you two for quite some time, and it's always interesting to like come together and have these conversations and talk about like where we've been and how we've got to this point. I think one of the things that I have learned, and this is something that I'm still trying to do, not necessarily just in romantic relationships, but I think in just like relationships in general, is like I can say all I want, or my partner can say all they want, but until there's like actions behind those, or like they're showing up and doing the things, like I have a hard time finding value in that. And I think for me, like I found that a lot in my previous relationship, in the healing process, and understanding that like you can say all these great things, but until like you actually put something behind them, like it's not going to mean anything. And I think that's really hard to hear, and I have unfortunately had to hear that from some very close friends of like, hey, you're saying these things but you're not doing them, and so like there's no weight to it. And Cassie, to your point, like it's we oftentimes get pulled into this perspective that like we're like, this is main character energy, right? Like we are the only person that matters in our story, and sometimes we forget that like there are other people that also have their own story going on.
Yeah, right.
And the older I get, the more I'm like, shit, like that, like I am learning that, and I am not perfect at it. I can sit here and say that, and know that is something that I'm still working on and still figuring out. And next relationship, like, yeah, like that's something that I have learned, but that's also something that I'm looking for, is like, can you put action behind your words, and can you put something behind what you are saying? And if not, like, what value does that bring? And that's hard. It's hard to realize, and it's hard to like understand that we are probably doing the same thing. Sometimes, we do need to be called out on that, which is also another hard thing to have happen sometimes. Lots of learning, lots of learning and unlearning in life and relationships, and nothing is ever perfect. It never turns out to be what we want it to be all the time. But that's okay, right? Like being okay with things not being okay sometimes.
Yeah, and then sometimes you really like the path that you didn't want a year ago.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think that just goes to show like how much we change, and how much like our experiences and everything else around us drives us to where we want to be, or potentially where we're supposed to be, if that's something that you fully believe in. but yeah, I do appreciate both of you coming on and spending some time, talking through these last couple episodes, to really just be open to sharing, some of the things that y'all have been through and have experienced. So thank you so much for tuning into this episode, these last couple episodes with Allie and Cassie. Thank you to both again for being a part of this. And like I said, we're going to be having the next episode where we're going to be focusing all about dating apps, because this season is apparently about heartbreak, relationships, and everything in fucking between. So thanks for watching, and we will see you in the next episode of For the Love of Humankind.